We have a very special guest with me in the studio for what is a Sky News first. David Stevens, also known as David the Medium, is Australia's most famous psychic and medium who has made countless accurate predictions, including predictions about the US election. Just to name two, at the start of the year, David predicted there would be an assassination attempt on Donald Trump and that Joe Biden would step aside. David, thank you for joining Power Hour.
Thanks so much for having me on. Pleasure to be here.
It is brilliant to speak with you. Let's start with the US. It's been a wild few weeks. It's been unprecedented what has unfolded. What do you see happening with Kamala Harris? We've got the DNC coming up in a couple of weeks. Will the honeymoon period wear off for Kamala Harris? Or what do you see when you're looking at Kamala Harris?
Yeah, it's very interesting with Kamala Harris because her whole rise through the Democrat Party has been one that has been very sort of stage managed, especially on her end as well. With the DNC coming up, I do believe that there won't necessarily be any arguments over who they're going to select as their candidates. I believe it will be a very sort of straightforward vote. But the honeymoon period for her is wearing off.
Already?
Fortunately, unready for her because, unfortunately for Kamala Harris, she is sort of a deeply unlikable character. And the more that the general sort of American population is able to sort of view not only what she's about, but also what she says, there's a lot of her history also being brought up as well. So I think for her, it would be very wise maybe not to get in front of a camera in an unstaged sort of press conference situation.
Yeah.
But we're going to see a bit of a sort of a change in public opinion there.
Well, the Democrats have been very good at hiding their leaders away from press conferences. So they did it with Joe Biden for years. So let's see how many press conferences Kamala Harris gives. But what do you see when it comes to Kamala Harris and Donald Trump if they end up debating? How will that go?
I mean, it's very interesting because even when I look at that, I don't necessarily see them having all-out debates. I mean, it is going to be very sort of stage managed behind the scenes as well. But I think in a lot of ways, Kamala Harris would probably repeat her debate that she had with Mike Pence in lead up to the 2020 election. It's not going to be very policy-based. There's not going to be much substance behind it. It is going to be very sort of separated into sort of personality traits and sort of, social roles, more so than actually debating public policy or debating what the parties are about. But I still don't really see them debating each other properly. So it's very interesting to see what comes up there.
Okay, we'll wait and see. Look, Donald Trump is continuing to rally despite getting shot in the face just a few weeks ago. He's back in Pennsylvania today. Is he safe? Is there going to be another assassination attempt?
Well, unfortunately for Donald Trump, in the lead up to 2024, I did predict that there would be 2 assassination attempts that would sort of target him directly. Unfortunately, as we saw in recent weeks, there has already been one. But I do believe that, especially over August and September, Donald Trump really does sort of enter a bit of a red zone again. I think there is more of a higher risk over the coming weeks to months in particular that we could see sort of an assassination attempt on him. I don't necessarily believe that it will be at an outdoor rally style like it was with his first attempt. I think that there can be sort of special interests that could be also paid to vehicular movements, plane movements, and sort of larger scale sort of accidents.
And you see that quite soon? We're not looking at November, we're looking in the next few weeks and months.
If it is likely to happen, I do predict that it would definitely be over the August-September period.
What about Kamala Harris? Is she safe?
Yeah. She's fine.
Okay, well, that's good. We want both candidates to be safe, of course. Look, I want to get your thoughts on the media's role looking at this election campaign. Facebook has actually acknowledged that censoring the iconic image of Donald Trump with his fist in the air after he was shot, they censored that image and now they've acknowledged that censoring that was a mistake. Why is that happening?
As we're all very well aware in the media as well, and in terms of even the spiritual implications of it, it is all very stage managed and there is sort of a narrative of what they're sort of telling as well. Now, obviously with Donald Trump's rise in popularity again, especially over the last few months in particular, there needs to be sort of countermeasures that sort of negate that within the general population. So they don't necessarily want the authentic message of what Donald Trump represents to be sort of widespread. And also, that image of him post-assassination is iconic. And that
absolutely iconic.
Exactly. That will go down as one of the most iconic pictures of this century. So it's what it instills within everybody when they see a photo like that, because it does really re-engage them with not only what Donald Trump represents, but also that real fighting spirit of how the general American population will view them representing him as well. And that is obviously a threat not only to the DNC and Kamala Harris's candidacy and her campaign, but also to the general sort of mainstream media that really is more so sort of left-leaning that we definitely see in the United States.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's so wild when images like that, images that the world saw in real time, and then for them to censor it just doesn't seem like the smartest image to censor, but look, they tried.
And this is the Barbara Streisand effect again as well, the Streisand effect, because the more that they do try and censor information, the more that people are actually drawn into finding it. It's natural for humans to
100%
be drawn into what we're censored from seeing.
Humans don't like being lied to.
And humans don't like that.
And they often can tell when they're being lied to, which is...
We've already seen the picture.
Yeah, we've seen the picture. It's a little bit too late.
It's a little bit late.
But they tried. Okay, I've been dancing around this, but we obviously want to know the big question, US election, who's going to win?
Spirit, when I've always looked into this, has always said that Donald Trump would win twice. And this has gone back as far as 2015. So I definitely was very much behind him in 2016 and predicted an election win for him then. I do believe that the 2024 elections is Donald Trump's favour. It's definitely the ball's in his court right now as well. So the next few months in particular, as we all can imagine, are going to be very fluid. There's going to be a lot of sort of surprises that are going to be coming up. There's going to be a lot of change in sort of what we're being presented with. But I do believe that Donald Trump will become the victor from the 2024 election.
I wasn't sure what you were going to say. That is very interesting. Are there going to be some gaffes from Kamala Harris? What else can you tell us that we might see between now and November?
Yeah. Well, sort of as we were mentioned before, Kamala Harris is a very sort of stage-managed character. There is a lot of smoke and mirrors behind her as well. So the DNC and also her campaign managers are going to be very sort of wary about putting her up in front of a press conference. I mean, we even saw recently that she hasn't been in attendance for some larger functions, especially with the Black Journalists Association this morning even. So I think it really is very interesting to see what will happen with her. I think if she is given the opportunity to speak, even in the debate setting, if that does eventually occur or not, she's not necessarily a character that can speak well in public. When Donald Trump goes off tangent, we see some of his best work really coming out. Kamala Harris is the polar opposite of that. So I think she is going to be pretty gaffe prone in the lead up to the election as well. A lot of her history will also be brought up. A lot of her ascendancy into the Democrat Party will be brought up as well. And that doesn't work in her favour. Okay,
look, I could talk to you about the US election for hours, but we do have to move on. There's been a significant development in the conflict in the Middle East in the past 24 hours with the Hamas leader being killed. What do you see when you look at the conflict in the Middle East?
Yeah, well, again, I mean, this does lead into one of my other predictions for 2024, which was the rise in a lot of sort of assassinations of world leaders and strong political figures as well. So when we're looking into the future of the Middle East, especially the near future as well, I mean, with the recent assassination, as you mentioned, of Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh, it really is on the tenterhooks there. The Middle East in general, as we all are very aware, is a very fluid situation. I do predict that Iran will strike back on Israel, whether that's a direct attack on the Israeli state. We may also see targets of soft targets throughout the world even as well. I think there needs to be special attention also paid to the Olympics as well, with not only Israeli visitors but also the Israeli athletes. But I don't think it's really going to be that far away until we do see a response from the Iranian state. And in terms of broader conflict in the Middle East as well, I think, even recently the Australian government has warned Australian citizens to again leave Lebanon.
Yeah.
So we are going to see, and it is also a prediction of mine again, a wider conflict again with Hezbollah, the Lebanese militant group. So obviously there was a rise up there with the Israeli-Gaza conflict in October last year. So, Israel and Lebanon have been in conflict in a very minor state since that moment. But I do believe, especially over August and September, we will see a sort of a more broader conflict coming in there as well. The head of Hamas in Gaza, Sinwar, and also the head of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, I would say would be very much at the top of the target list for assassination as well.
Do you see them being assassinated?
Inevitably.
Inevitably.
Yeah.
You can't say how soon?
If I was them, I wouldn't be sleeping well, put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I get your thoughts on China and Taiwan?
China and Taiwan's always been a very interesting topic for me as well. I think, again, with American weakness on display in terms of foreign policy, but also their military capabilities as well, China and Taiwan really does come into the focus point there as well. I've always predicted, especially over the last sort of 12 months in particular, that it will be inevitable that we will sort of see a form of conflict there, as well as China does pull Taiwan back into its satellite influence. I don't necessarily predict that that would occur this year as well. Again, it's very dependent on the outcome of the American election. But I think inevitably, especially in this decade, we will see a form of conflict again in Asia there as well.
Okay, look, you are in Sydney not just for Power Hour, but you are hosting your sold-out live show at the Opera House. Let's take a look. It is this Sunday and I am so excited. What can we expect?
Well, first and foremost, I'm so glad it's not only happening, but you're able to attend as well, Gabriella.
Very honoured.
Thank you. What can we expect? Doing live shows is something that I've wanted to do for a very long time, and I have been a professional psychic medium for coming on 8 years now as well. But for everyone in attendance, I want them to witness firsthand the connection with spirits, and I will be drawing on my connection with spirit in the afterlife to pass on messages of love, support, validation and guidance to members of the audience at random. And it's going to be a special evening. I'm very much looking forward to it.
What is it like for you? Because I have been in the audience before and it is hard to describe. There is nothing like it, but it's quite beautiful. Some of the messages that come through, you provide such comforting messages because all of us have lost people that we love. What is it like for you holding space for that many people?
Yeah, it really is something that has become a highlight of my career. I mean, I just get such enjoyment from it. I get a real peace from it as well. I mean, whatever spirit feels, I feel as well. And they're always coming forward with, you know, happiness and love and really wanting to connect. So in a lot of ways, it leaves me on a high. And it's just something that I love being able to do. And I love being able to allow the audience to witness that as well. So I'm very much looking forward to it again.
Oh, I cannot wait. Finally, before I let you go, is there any advice from Spirit that you can share with us, especially the last half of 2024?
My biggest message for the rest of 2024 in particular, especially because it will be a very fluid, constantly evolving, and there's going to be a lot of big events that are going to be occurring for the next sort of 6 months. My main advice is if you can't control it, don't allow it to control you. We just have to remember, at the end of the day, this is basically like watching a movie. So sit back, relax.
The movie's been wild.
The movie's been intense and there's been a lot of plot twists.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sit back and relax and enjoy the show.
David, thank you so much for coming on Power Hour.
Pleasure to be on. Thank you so much.